Hello everyone, my name is BlackWatch and welcome to another episode of How to Play. In this week's episode we're going to be taking a look at Maxim Basuda, also known as Kapkan. He's an operator who's been iterated on more than any other operator in the game, and he's finally reached the point where I genuinely think he's actually useful for once. So before, you would snag some fun kills with him and it'd be a good time if you ever caught them, but the likelihood was you weren't going to get much out of his gadget. Now you can almost guarantee some use out of his gadget, and so as a result, he's a good trapper to bring. Let's see how to play him. So, Kapkan is a 2-armor 2-speed operator on the defending side. He's a member of the Spetsnaz CTU, along with his compatriot Tachanka on defense, and his attacking compatriots Fuse and Glaz. He has access to 2 primary weapons, the VSM 9mm submachine gun, which is actually a pretty good SMG. I quite like it. I've been enjoying it a lot more now that he has 2 speed. And he also has access to the SASG-12 shotgun. It's the best semi-automatic shotgun in the game, but that's purely because it has a very, very high rate of fire. So you just spray down the entire magazine until you hit something. So if you want to use it, by all means, fire away, but it's not exactly the best thing on the world. Well, best thing in the world, Jesus Christ. It's not very good compared to the likes of the SAS shotgun. It's not very good compared to the likes of the SAS shotgun, so you'd be better taking something else, particularly the SMG. He has 2 secondary weapons, the PMM, which is arguably the best pistol in the game, and the GSH-18, which is arguably the worst pistol in the game, so take a pick. You have the nitro cell and barbed wire as your 2 secondary gadgets. I'd say nitro cell is probably the best one for Kapkan, especially now that he's got 2 speed. And his unique gadget is the EDD Mark II, that's the entry denial device. So this thing can be mounted to door frames and window frames, and it deals 60 damage to a 3-speed operator. Scales down depending on the armor rating, and it scales down depending on different things like how close they are to the gadget and various other things. The maximum range is 4 meters from the detonation site. So this gadget used to be completely lethal. Anyone that walked through it would be killed instantly, no exceptions, and it was great. Well, there were some exceptions, but anyway, it doesn't matter anymore. Now it deals that damage, and the trade-off is that even though it's non-lethal, it's now completely invisible. It no longer has the emitted laser that it had before. So before it had this massive lightsaber-like beam, which was then buffed to be a less lightsaber-like beam, but now it just doesn't exist at all, which is why it's now non-lethal. But he also has 5 of them instead of 3, so it's a pretty good trade-off in my opinion. Now, the strengths of Kapkan are his gadget to begin with. It's quite potent because, unlike some of the Defender's gadgets, it will almost always trigger, and you'll almost always get some use out of it, and 60 damage is nothing to be laughed at. That's about 2 shots worth of health that they've got left, and that's about it. So it makes any attacker that runs into it a hell of a lot easier to kill than they would have been before, especially if they're a 3-armor operator. He's also a lot faster than he used to be. He used to be a 3-speed, so putting those traps down at the start of the round was pretty difficult. It's still quite difficult as a 2-speed, and a lot of the time you won't find that you'll get all your traps down, but you can try your best. His SMG is pretty solid, as I say. It's got good reflex sight, which is one of the strengths of the Russian operators in general. And his handgun is, as I say, one of the best, if not the best, in the game. His weaknesses are, unfortunately, that his gadget is often not completely used until the prep phase is actually over. And as a result, you're then contesting with the fact that it does have a very loud deploy sound. Now, it's the sound of a drill screwing in, and then the sound of the joint being twisted, and it is pretty loud, and it's very distinctive, so attackers who are nearby will hear you deploy it and may be able to destroy it or catch you in the act as a result. It's no longer got those big spectacular slaps that it used to have, unfortunately, but it's a bit of a trade-off because now, as a whole, I would say that he's actually usable. Before, he was a bit of a fringe pick. But yeah, I think now you get a lot more use out of him, and I don't think it's as ridiculed a decision to pick a Kapkan on defense anymore. Unfortunately, his gadget is sometimes hard to hide on certain doorways. For that, you just got to think like an attacker, and you've got to put yourself in the shoes of the attacker and think, where am I going to approach from? Where am I likely to be seeing the door frame first? So what side is going to be the exposed side and what side is going to be the blind side? And obviously, the better a player you are, the less likely you are to be caught by the traps. But even the best players now are sometimes forced to just run through a doorway because of time constraints or whatever, or they might just be careless. And now that you can't see the laser, it makes it that little bit easier for Kapkan to actually score those trap detonations. Now, some tips for Kapkan in general is that, as I say, you have to think like an attacker when you're placing your EDDs. If you place them with that mentality and think, where am I going to approach from as an attacker? What am I going to be looking at first as an attacker? And just make those guesses yourself. A lot of that is down to map knowledge and just knowledge of the attacks of certain sites that you would pick up by playing the game. It does take time, it does take practice, and it's not always going to work out because sometimes they'll take unconventional pushes, or sometimes they'll be looking at it from a different angle, or maybe they'll just be a little bit more attentive than normally would be. These are all outside factors that factor into pretty much every gadget in the game, so it's not really, or every trap gadget in the game, so it's not really a fault of the character as such. It's just that, again, you need to be intelligent and you need to have an element of luck as well for your traps to really work out. If you suspect that there's players nearby, don't deploy your gadget, because it's really embarrassing when you get caught in the middle of the act screwing that gadget into the wall, because you're just going to get slapped in the head. You're completely vulnerable during that period, and your body's also exposed in the middle of the doorway or the window. So if you think that you can just deploy it on the edge and nobody will see you, you're going to be standing out there and your arse is going to be exposed. So don't think that you're in cover by any means, because you're not. Be careful once the prep phase finishes, because a lot of the time that's when you're going to be deploying probably your last two, maybe your last one gadget. So just be aware, be careful, keep an eye out for enemies, and don't take the risky deploy, because they'll probably destroy it because they've heard it go down. And the more likely outcome is that they're going to hear you and then come for you, and that's never fun. But similarly, during the round, if you've placed an EDD and you know it's going to be ineffective, don't be afraid to pick it back up and redeploy it during the round, because you get some more use out of it that way. If you've deployed it on a doorway and then they end up coming from a completely different direction, if it's safe to do so, pick up that EDD from the doorway that's not going to be used and move it to a different one. Obviously, same principles apply. Don't be too silly, don't be too risky, but if it's still fairly quiet and early on in the round, but you know that they're not going to be approaching from that angle, feel free to just pick it up and put it elsewhere, because it's better to get some use out of it. And that applies to my last tip, which is not being stingy with the gadget. You're better, sorry, I'm losing breath because I'm underneath the covers and it's basically filling with CO2 and nothing else. That's the struggles of a YouTuber who doesn't have any noise cancellation in his flat. Don't be stingy with your gadget. Oh, Jesus Christ. Don't be stingy with the gadget. You're going to make the most of it. When you're using it, if you deploy them correctly, I can almost guarantee you will get at least one tick off on the gadgets. The trouble with people who are stingy with their gadgets and worry too much about them maybe not working is that it's not really much use in a dead man's pocket, so just get them out anyway. You should be looking to have all 5 of your EDDs deployed before you get into any real conflict, because then, even if you die, your gadgets are still there and can do some of your work even when you're gone. Anyway guys, this has been a bit of a short video, but that's pretty much all there really is to Kapkan, other than just learning trap placements, and that's maybe something that I can take a look into in a later video. Maybe bring back the old How to Master series, you never know. But you've seen a couple of clips there, just a couple of previews of what's coming up. That's pretty much all there is to it, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. As I say, the shield video should be up fairly soon, so that'll be the next thing to look forward to. And I'll catch you in the next one. Do svidaniya, guys. Bye-bye.